Okay, let's go. Okay, let's go.
Books relatively clean. Its debt to GDP ratio is under 40%, far lower than many peers, giving it more freedom to walk away if a deal smells rancid. And there's more. Indonesia isn't just interesting because where it is and what it possesses. It's interesting because what it is. As somewhat of a rarity in the global south, a functional democracy with relative stability. No coups, no crackdowns, no leaders for life. Just a noisy and most certainly imperfect but adequately functioning political machine. Emphasis on adequate functioning. That's not attractive for headlines, but it's very appealing to anyone investing billions. And that money, there's room for it to grow. Indonesia has a massive youthful middle class with tens of millions joining the consumer economy every year. By 2045, it's projected to be the world's fourth largest economy, and the consumer market is in the core of this development. Household consumption is estimated to make up 54% of the country's economic activity. Thus, it's not a surprise why everyone from Uniqlo to Apple to Samsung wants in before the crowd fully arrive. And it's not just about markets, it's about meaning. Indonesia is quietly becoming a diplomatic voice of the global south. It's not a loud revolutionary like Cuba or a hard-aligned state like Iran. It's the quiet moderator, speaking at climate summits and trade forums with an aura of reasonable adulthood. So, it makes sense why everyone wants to be friends with Indonesia, because Indonesia isn't trying to be anyone's exclusive companion. It has a population of a superpower, the diplomacy of a non-aligned monk, and the resources of a country you don't want to argue with. It does not threaten, it does not posture. It just shows up to every geopolitical party with a plate of nickel and a non-committal shrug, and somehow leaves with everyone's phone number. In a world where everyone's shouting for attention, Indonesia whispers, and that's why everyone's listening.
Saudara-saudara, yang saya katakan tadi, pakar-pakar geopolitik mengatakan bangsa Indonesia ini akan menjadi bangsa keempat terkaya di dunia. Tapi ada syaratnya. Syaratnya apa? Syaratnya adalah apabila bangsa Indonesia bisa bersatu. Syaratnya apa? Terutama apabila elitnya bisa bekerja sama.
Yo minasan konnichiwa, apa kabar semua? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ya, video kali ini sebelum kita bahas, saya ucapkan terima kasih buat subscriber yang baru datang, welcome, dan salam ye untuk pakcik makcik Malaysia. Ye, what's up? How you guys doing? Ini mulai hari ini kita pakai salam ye ya. Hari ini kita akan membahas kenapa. Ini judul yang pasti bikin orang Malaides jingkrak-jingkrak, malah guling-guling, gigit jari, lempar batu, lempar bantal ini. Judulnya, kenapa Indonesia itu jadi rebutan dunia. Ya, dan bakal menjadi ekonomi nomor 4 terbesar. Kemarin kan negara terkaya nomor 4 di dunia itu Pak Prabowo, pernyataan Pak Prabowo kemarin itu memantik kemarahan banyak sekali komen-komen orang Malaides. Ya biasa, yang bodoh-bodoh aja semuanya. Pak Prabowo itu ngomong bukan berdasarkan mimpi dia, itu berdasarkan ya pengamat ekonomi dunia, Wall Street Journal, Forbes itu. Dan orang pengamat-pengamat ekonomi dunia itu bukan bodoh. Mereka semua sebenarnya nggak mau Indonesia itu maju. Banyak negara-negara maju di Eropa yang selama ini membuat Indonesia jadi sapi perah, termasuk tetangga-tetangga kita itu nggak mau sekali Indonesia itu maju. Apalagi jadi ekonomi nomor 4 terbesar dunia itu mimpi buruk mereka. Tapi melihat kenyataan last 5 years lah, 5 tahun terakhir, itu mereka tidak bisa menampilkan lagi. Jadi topik bahasan kali ini udah lihat sedikit tadi. Nanti video panjangnya setelah ini dari Atomic. Saya akan kasih link deskripsinya nanti di link channelnya di deskripsi. Ya, dari Atomic 3145, ini channel orang luar negeri. Sengaja saya pilih biar Malaides puas hati lah, kalau dari kita aja nanti mereka nggak terima kan. Kenapa semua orang superpower dunia itu mau jadi bestinya Indonesia? Ya, kalau Malaides ngomong kita nih jadi tumpuan dunia. Nah, kalau Indonesia ini nggak teriak-teriak begitu. Indonesia ini suka diam, orangnya diam. Indonesia ini ibarat cowok ganteng, kaya raya, seksi, tapi cuek begitu. Nggak suka kuar-kuar, suka dia kerja, ngomongnya pelan, nggak mau gombal sana sini. Kalau ada perjanjian pun hati-hati, jabat tangan pun dia pakai sarung tangan. Itulah Indonesia. Ya, beda dengan Malaides. Malaides tumpuan dunia, suka teriak-teriak, kuar-kuar. Meski kenyataan tidak sesuai. Jadi itu, video kali ini, kenapa semua kekuatan dunia ingin jadi bestie Indonesia, rebutan untuk bekerja sama dengan Indonesia. Terus yang kedua, kenapa Indonesia itu akan jadi powerhouse atau ekonomi nomor 4 terbesar di dunia. Ya, update-nya beberapa juga salah dia di sini. Mungkin video ini sudah setahun yang lewat. Waktu GDP Indonesia masih 1 triliun. Untuk tahun ini udah 2,5 triliun. Yes, you heard that right. Luar biasa sekali Indonesia loh. 2,5 triliun US dollar itu Malaides 400 miliar, 500 miliar aja nggak nyampe. Marah itu. Salam yeah. Come on man. Easy Tiger. Easy yeah. Oke, without further ado, kita lihatlah ini apa lanjutan video ini. Sit back, relax, ambil kopinya. Saya sudah translate dalam bahasa Indonesia ya. Check this out.
Countries, easy to name, hard to ignore. But the fourth, that one tends to slip under the radar. Indonesia, a subtle but powerful player. No nukes, no invasions, no attention-grabbing headlines. Just 280 million people minding their business and quietly becoming one of the most courted countries on earth. Every big player is flirting to become besties with Indonesia. The US sees a quiet ally in a noisy region, a counterweight to China without the drama. China sees nickel, trade routes, and a polite maybe. The EU, resources for sustainable technologies. Australia, its closest big neighbor, and quietly hopes it stays chill. Even Saudi Arabia has started dropping by, briefcase in hand. Indonesia hardly knocks on anyone's door, but somehow the world keeps showing up at its doorstep. And it's not hard to see why. Indonesia's geography positions the island nation one of the most strategic locations on the whole planet. And it's probably for good. Indonesia is like a buffer zone to slow down all the madness in the world. Let me explain. A chain of over 17,000 islands stretching over 5,000 kilometers wide and covering more than 8 million square kilometers. Indonesia controls some of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Strait of Malacca, Sunda Strait, and Lombok Strait, essentially gatekeeping any trade that wants to pass from the Indian Ocean to China and East Asia. Up to 40% of all global trade passes through Indonesian waters. The Strait of Malacca is even more crucial for China, as 80% of its oil imports squeeze through the narrow gap. The current world order goes through Indonesia. So for everyone, Jakarta's docility is more valuable than 1,000 treaties. Because if Indonesia ever decided to make things complicated, a lot of boats would be very, very late. And here's where it gets interesting. Indonesia doesn't pick sides, no alliances, no declarations of eternal loyalty. It doesn't throw tantrums in front of the global community. Just a calm shrug and a polite, we'll see. It just smiles and nods and gives everyone just enough to stay hopeful. This is what diplomats call strategic ambiguity. To the US, Indonesia says, we believe in a free and open Indo-Pacific. To China, we welcome economic cooperation. To everyone else, let's talk about minerals and palm oil. It's kind of a foreign policy judo, using everyone's enthusiasm against them, while Indonesia stays cool in the middle, sipping kopi. But Indonesia's popularity isn't solely due to its geography. Its economic rise is also a massive part of the reason why everyone's interested. On the global stage, Indonesia isn't just a big island, it's a massive economic powerhouse. It's got one of the largest economies in Southeast Asia and is quickly closing in on the top 15 economies worldwide. By 2050, it's predicted to become one of the top 5 economies on the planet. That's not a small deal. So why the sudden rise? First up, resources. Indonesia is basically sitting on a treasure chest that the world is scrambling to unlock. It pumps out half of the planet's nickel, the metal magic that makes electric vehicles zoom. Add in palm oil, rubber, and coal, and it's like Mother Nature rigged the resource lottery in Indonesia's favor. And here's the kicker. Indonesia is starting to move beyond just exporting raw goods. It's getting into processing, manufacturing, and even high-tech industry. Take electric vehicle batteries. Indonesia has the nickel, but now it's making the world come to it. Rather than simply selling raw materials and letting other countries build their factories elsewhere, from 2020 onwards, Indonesia decided, if you want our nickel, you'll build your EV factories here. A strategy that said, we're not your mine, we're your manufacturing partner. Tesla, Ford, and Hyundai all fell in line. Now they're investing billions in Indonesia, not just to process the materials, but to manufacture the end products. Indonesia made everyone play nice. Chinese firms work next to American suppliers inside industrial parks built with South Korean money governed by Jakarta's terms. Indonesia's government has made it clear, if you want to access the country's mineral wealth, you have to commit to building facilities within its borders. This policy is part of the country's effort to move up the value chain and avoid simply being the world's mining pit. Instead, Indonesia wants to be the heart of the green economy, producing technologies of tomorrow, not just raw materials for it. And Indonesia is doing this all without military threats or economic coercion. It's simply saying, we've got what you want, we're going to make sure it's used to build something bigger than just a factory in your backyard. This is economic diplomacy in full swing. Indonesia's making moves in silence, letting its influence do the talking. And then the next dimension, relationship with China. China is not just knocking on their door, but it's already halfway through it with its shoe off. Indonesia is a key link in China's Belt and Road Initiative, that trillion-dollar plan to redraw global trade routes with Chinese steel, debt, and diplomacy. Major projects like the Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail, Southeast Asia's first bullet train, are built with Chinese money and engineering. It's the BRI's showcase child, sleek, fast, and chronically over budget. But here's the thing, Indonesia takes the money, not the leash. Jakarta demanded that Chinese firms partner with local companies, hire Indonesians, and respect their domestic oversight. It wasn't just built here, it was built here, but we're the boss. Indonesia plays the game well, accepting Chinese investment, expanding trade, and even letting Huawei into its 5G rollout, but never fully stepping into Beijing's embrace. A quiet, stubborn independence runs through it all. And that's the trick. Indonesia manages to be crucial to China without ever being claimed by it. And it's not just about infrastructure. Indonesia draws firm lines, no Chinese military bases, a hard no to illegal fishing, all the while hosting military drills with the US Navy. Jakarta's objective is to bolster authority with grounded confidence. China wants allegiance. Indonesia offers a handshake with gloves on. This avoidance of dependence on others applies to finances too. While some countries have stumbled into debt traps, Indonesia has kept its books relatively clean. Its debt to GDP ratio is under 40%, far lower than many peers, giving it more freedom to walk away if a deal smells rancid. And there's more. Indonesia isn't just interesting because where it is and what it possesses. It's interesting because what it is. As somewhat of a rarity in the global south, a functional democracy with relative stability. No coups, no crackdowns, no leaders for life. Just a noisy and most certainly imperfect but adequately functioning political machine. Emphasis on adequate functioning. That's not attractive for headlines, but it's very appealing to anyone investing billions. And that money, there's room for it to grow. Indonesia has a massive youthful middle class with tens of millions joining the consumer economy every year. By 2045, it's projected to be the world's 4th largest economy, and the consumer market is in the core of this development. Household consumption is estimated to make up 54% of the country's economic activity. Thus, it's not a surprise why everyone from Uniqlo to Apple to Samsung wants in before the crowd fully arrives. And it's not just about markets, it's about meaning. Indonesia is quietly becoming a diplomatic voice of the global south. It's not a loud revolutionary like Cuba or a hard-aligned state like Iran. It's the quiet moderator, speaking at climate summits and trade forums with an aura of reasonable adulthood. So, it makes sense why everyone wants to be friends with Indonesia, because Indonesia isn't trying to be anyone's exclusive companion. It has a population of a superpower, the diplomacy of a non-aligned monk, and the resources of a country you don't want to argue with. It does not threaten, it does not posture. It just shows up to every geopolitical party with a plate of nickel and a non-committal shrug, and somehow leaves with everyone's phone number. In a world where everyone's shouting for attention, Indonesia whispers, and that's why everyone's listening.
Alright, udah kita lihat tadi, saya hanya menyimpulkan beberapa aja. Kenapa Indonesia itu jadi rebutan dunia? Kalau Maldives jadi tumpuan dunia, tapi buktinya nggak ada ya. Kalau Indonesia ini saya sebut tadi seolah seorang anak muda, kaya raya, sukses, ganteng, seksi, tapi nggak banyak ngomong. Semua perempuan mau sama dia, banyak yang pengen deket-deket, jabatan tangan pun dia pakai sarung tangan. Hati-hati. Jadi yang akan saya koreksi beberapa nanti, geografis. Itu Indonesia itu di tengah, betul 40% perdagangan dunia itu lewat Indonesia. Jadi Indonesia itu kalau mau macam-macam, kacau dunia. Kalau mau bikin susah lah. Atau Indonesia ini sebenarnya kalau mau keras, dipungutin pajak semua yang lewat perairan kita. Ya $100 aja satu kapal kan lumayan. Itu income yang luar biasa. Yang kedua ini non-aligned, istilahnya non-block. Jadi Indonesia itu bebas mau dagang sana sini, deal dengan sana sini. Nah, ini kekurangan tetangga Indonesia, Maldives, ini kekurangan dia. Dia sudah nggak bebas seperti Indonesia. Kalau Indonesia, dia kaya raya, diam, nggak banyak ngomong, banyak yang pengen jadi pacarnya, bestinya, dia hati-hati seleksi, nggak tebar pesona, nggak perlu tebar pesona, orang datang, kalaupun ada jabat tangan, dia pakai sarung tangan, mana tahu ada virus corona apa kan. Terus kalau nggak cocok, deal, dia akan membatalkan. Karena ini saya koreksi lagi, rasio utang dengan GDP Indonesia itu ini tahun kemarin itu 40%. Ya sekarang itu udah di bawah 35%. Jadi sangat sehat sekali. Indonesia ini bisa kalau mau ngutang lagi bisa dia. Jadi dengan rasio hutang 35% ke bawah ini, Indonesia itu bisa aja membatalkan semua perjanjian. Ya, itu beda dengan Maldives yang sudah dicocok hidungnya sini oleh Amerika. Jadi beda jauh. Kalau Maldives itu udah susah lah ngomong lagi, ya. Kalau ini Indonesia mau bikin deal-deal ekonomi dengan Cina, siapa aja, nggak ada yang melarang. Tapi kalau Maldives dia harus minta izin dulu ke Amerika. Itu perjanjian yang sudah ditandatangani, nggak bisa lari-lari. Terus contohnya kalau di Indonesia produk-produk digital, Amazon, Apple, semua Indonesia masih ambil pajak. Lumayan pajaknya itu, triliunan juga. Tapi kalau di Maldives nggak boleh lagi, nggak bisa lagi mereka ambil pajak di produk digital Amerika. Kasihan amat ya. Itu bedanya. Jadi Indonesia itu menarik karena non-aligned. Terus sumber market ya 270 juta. Rakyatnya, usia tenaga kerjanya tinggi dan banyak, middle income-nya banyak sekali sekarang. Itu bedanya ya. Kalau netizen Maldives ngomong pendapatan kami income kami tertinggi, kalau dihitung income begitu tinggi dari Indonesia, oke ya, utangnya juga tinggi, nomor 2 itu Maldives. Jadi 50% orang Maldives itu 50% nggak punya rumah sendiri, masih nyewa, masih ngontrak-ngontrak, masih ansuran. Itu beda dengan orang Indonesia, apalagi di kampung-kampung. Ya, kalau di kampung saya tuh 100% rumahnya punya rumah sendiri, nggak ada ngutang. Ya saya pulang kemarin tuh walau gimana pun sawit, ini ya beda, nanti saya bikin video Benik itu kemarin. Indonesia itu diobok-obok waktu banjir kemarin itu, sebenarnya yang banjir itu bukan Indonesia aja. Filipina parah, Vietnam parah, Thailand, Malaysia itu sendiri parah. Cuman bedanya apa? Media mereka nggak ada, terutama Malaysia. Medianya nggak ada nyalahin itu gara-gara sawit, itu gara-gara tambang, nggak ada. Media Indonesia aja yang sibuk itu, ya. Meski kita tidak membantah ada perusakan hutan, tapi media Indonesia ini disetir. Kata Bang Benik itu medianya George Soros. Karena nggak ada yang ingin maju, lihat maju Indonesia itu dan ekonomi begitu. Apalagi jadi produsen sawit terbesar dunia, itu banyak orang yang sakit hati. Ya terlebih dari segala kekurangan atau gimananya, orang-orang kampung saya lah, daerah Jambi itu lihat sekali ekonominya naik. Rumah bagus-bagus. Satu rumah ada yang 4 mobil, cash semua. Motor ini ada satu rumah 6, cash. Semua cash. Itu teman saya, saking kayanya dia itu sedekah setiap hari Jumat 30 juta. Sedekah. Saya aja minder ngelihat dia. Yaitu ekonomi, terus ekonomi terbesar di ASEAN. Itu sekarang udah terbesar. Tuh Maldives, kalau nggak percaya cek aja. Size ekonomi itu penting. Ya. Makanya Indonesia itu di G20. Indonesia itu di BRICS. Maldives di mana ayo? Kalau merasa memang hebat, ringgit berjaya, pendapatan banyak kalau utang rumah tangga banyak percuma juga. Sekolah aja ngutang di Maldives ini. Jadi terbiasa disubsidi, mental subsidi itu nggak bagus. Itu mental pengemis. Kalau rakyat Indonesia tuh mental pejuang, dia nggak terlalu disubsidi lah. Itu ya. Terus resources, sumber daya alam nggak usah diomongin lagi. Itu nikel, tanah jarang. Jadi kalau Tesla, Hyundai, Ford masuk itu udah sangat tidak terkejut lagi. Ya, itu saja yang pengen saya bahas. Itu bedanya. Silakan kalian baku hantam di komen. Pak Cik Maldives, you welcome, buddy. Ngomonglah. Ngomong rakyat Indonesia ini di mana-mana. Miskin, berserakan di dunia. Kamu salah. Kamu lihat negara maju Cina. Ya rakyatnya berserakan di mana, di Jepang ini banyak juga kerja. Itu masalah pilihan. Orang Maldives aja banyak di mana-mana. Ada sejutaan di Singapura kerja keras juga. Itu pilihan dia. Ya, 61.000 orang pindah warga negara. Karena alasan pertama ekonomi. Jadi kalau ekonomi Maldives itu luar biasa hebat berjaya, nggak bakal mereka tukar jadi warga negara. Ya, yes you common sense. Nggak usah banyak teori-teori. Lihat kenyataan aja. Itu. Size ekonomi terbesar di ASEAN itu Indonesia. Size ekonominya itu digabungin 3-4 negara pun masih menang Indonesia. Penting size ekonomi itu. Income tinggi pun kayak Maldives, pengeluaran tinggi ya sama aja percuma. Dari komen-komen video saya kemarin itu goblok sekali banyak orang Maldives ini emang. Dia ngomong, harga tempe 4.000 gimana mau kaya banyak sih. Kamu pikir 4.000 rupiah itu nilainya sama dengan 4.000 ringgit. 4.000 rupiah itu nilainya 1 ringgit kamu. Buat orang Indonesia uang 4.000 itu sama uang receh. Samalah dengan perasaanmu dengan 1 ringgit. Jangan kau pikir 4.000 rupiah Indonesia 1 ringgit Maldives ini ditukar ke Indonesia 4.000 umpama. Jangan kau pikir 4.000 itu bisa beli 10 karung beras. Enggak juga, sama aja. Ya. 4.000 1 ringgit Malaysia bisa beli apa, purchasing power-nya cuman apa? 1 gelas kopi ya sama aja di Indonesia juga. Buat orang Indonesia uang 4.000 tuh ya receh, cuman bedanya nilai 0 aja banyak kan. Jadi jangan kau pikir apa harga kopi satu gelas 4.000 itu, buat orang Indonesia cari uang 4.000 itu susah sekali, tinggi sekali. Enggak, uang 4.000 itu buat orang Indonesia receh. Ya, begitu. Terus rasio utang. Ya, dengan GDP-nya. Ini bahaya sekali kalau Maldives itu udah mau 80%, bisa-bisa kolap negaramu. Nggak tahu udah update sekarang ya. Indonesia itu masih 30 ke 35 dibanding dengan GDP-nya. Jadi sehat sekali ekonominya. Jadi kalau Indonesia mau redenominasi, pasan ini. Ya, yang gagal redenominasi itu ekonominya belum nggak stabil, apanya inflasinya sampai juta-jutaan %. Ya iyalah, Indonesia inflasinya kan masih di bawah 4%, bisa saatnya. Cuman ya itu grup-grup dari neraka jahanam nggak ada yang mau, nggak ada yang suka, termasuk Maldives ini. Oke, begitu saja. Sebagai video penutup, kita taruhlah apa ya, pidato Pak Presiden Indonesia. Alright, terima kasih, begitu saja kali ini. Bye-bye.
Kali Konoha padahal cuma 40 saham, tapi dia bukan saham, combro. Makanya nih yang komentar-komentar ini orang-orang miskin Malaysia nih, yang komentar-komentar negatif ini. 49% kepemilikan terhadap gedung Exchange 106 TRX Bukit Bintang Kuala Lumpur. 49% kepemilikan ya. Ini yang komentar-komentar ini adalah, gue kasih tau aja, orang-orang miskin di Malaysia. Karena orang-orang kaya di Malaysia itu, mereka menyadari